my name is Abigail Kelly and I'm the 2021 Iowa Honey Queen. As Iowa Honey Queen, I travel around the state to educate about honeybees, beekeeping, and the products of the hive. Today I made these videos for the Waukee Public Library as part of their virtual summer programming. Did you know there are 3 types of bees in a beehive? They're all honeybees, but they have different roles. Our first type of bee is a worker bee. She is a female bee, and as her name implies, she does all the work in the hive. She starts by cleaning out the cell that she grew up in, and then she'll go and help the other bees clean out other cells. Worker bees also take care of the baby bees, the queen bee, and the drone bees. Worker bees make beeswax, and they make the beeswax into the cells. They shape it. They also guard the hive from intruders, and they end their days by being forager bees. Forager bees are the bees we see outside the beehive on flowers. Those bees are collecting nectar and pollen to bring back to the hive to turn into honey and bee bread to feed the other bees. Our next type of bee is the drone bee. Drone bees are male bees. They're the only male bees in the hive. And drones don't really do much in the hive. They just sit there and let the worker bees take care of them. Drones cannot clean or feed themselves, so the worker bees help them do that. The purpose of the drones is to mate with the queen. Without drones, we wouldn't have the baby bees that the hive needs to continue to grow. Our third type of bee in the hive is the queen bee. The queen bee is the mother bee to all the other bees in the hive. Typically, there's only one queen bee in the hive at a time. She also does not clean or feed herself. The worker bees help her do that. One queen bee can lay between 1,500 and 2,000 eggs in a day, and those eggs will grow up to be the next workers, drones, or maybe even the queen. Now I'm getting all ready to go into my beehive. I've changed into jeans and tennis shoes, and I have my bee jacket on. My bee jacket protects my upper body and my arms from bee stings, as well as my head when I put on the veil. Besides the bee jacket, I also put on gloves. Most beekeepers use this type of glove, which are really thick and really long to protect their hands. But these gloves don't fit my hands very well. So I use orange rubber gloves that help me be able to be more careful in the beehive. Another important tool a beekeeper uses is called a hive tool. A hive tool is like a multi-purpose tool that's designed to lift and tear apart frames. Another tool a beekeeper uses is called a smoker. In the smoker, the beekeeper lights a little fire and then they stuff it full of wood chips. This produces a cool white smoke that is used to calm the bees. Honeybees communicate through their sense of smell, and so when we smoke the hive, that confuses it, and that helps them not know that we're there. It helps make sure they can't communicate that I am checking the hive, which helps protect me from these things. Let's get ready to go in the hive. The first thing I'm going to do when I go into my beehives is smoke their entrance to confuse their sense of smell. I just give it a few puffs of smoke, and then that will calm them down. I keep my smoker handy just in case they get a little buzzy. We're going to carefully take off the lid. And then I'm going to take out what's called the inner cover. The outer cover, which is the first lid, protects the bees from weather such as rain and snow. And the inner cover shows them what is the top of their hive. When I first look at my bees, I try to see what's going on. There's lots of bees in this feeder, which is providing extra supplemental feed because there's not a lot of flowers in bloom. And then they're covering all the frames fairly well. I see some bees with pollen in their pollen baskets. Just gonna give them another little puff of smoke. Then I'm gonna try to pull out my first frame. And I always start at the edge because the queen isn't very likely to be over there. Just gonna very carefully pull out my frame. Just very slowly. And I have worker bees on here, as well as some pupa, and that's what that capped hexagonal block is, towards the top middle. The purpose of checking a beehive is to make sure the bees are happy and healthy and that they have plenty of room. I don't always spend a lot of time in my beehives because that can actually hurt the bees, because I could end up wrecking too much of their comb and setting them back too much, and they would have too much work. So I try to check for the bare minimums that I can, making sure that they have plenty of food and that the queen is still busy laying eggs. This frame is mostly empty, but they're starting to build out the beeswax on the foundation. Let's pull out the next frame. Do you spot anything different on this frame? So this frame has those special queen cells I talked about earlier that the queens are raised in. One is right here. It's starting to be extra long because remember, the queen is extra long. And what this means is that these bees are raising a new queen, and what they have decided is that their hive is too small and that they need to have half the bees leave with the old queen to find a new home. What I'll do as a beekeeper, because I don't want half my bees leaving, is I will split the hive, which means I'll take about half the bees and the old queen and put them in a new hive, and they'll think, wow, we've swarmed. And then other bees will continue to raise a new queen, and she'll emerge and go out and mate and come back and be the new queen that will lay all the eggs in this hive. This side of the frame has milky white larvae. I don't know if you'll be able to see it on the video, but they're the white crescents in the cells, and that's the stage before pupa. Remember, that's the caterpillar stage where they're trying to eat so they can grow. I found the queen. She's right here, crawling around the frame. She's looking for different cells to lay eggs in. She's longer than the other bees, but also thinner at the waist. So remember how I said these bees are ready to swarm? That's actually a good thing. That means they're a very strong, big hive, and that they're ready to make 2 beehives. And of course, 2 beehives are better than 1. So what I'm gonna do so that they don't get away from me is I'm gonna take this frame with the queen and put it in a new box with lots of honey and nectar and pollen and with lots of bees. And then in this box, I'll leave that queen cell I found and the other ones on the frame that have an egg in it. And these bees will make a new queen, and in about a month, they'll be just perfect again with the new queen. Meanwhile, this hive will continue to grow since they have a queen who is currently laying. So I'm just gonna be very careful. I'm gonna watch her and make sure she gets in here because she's super important to the hive. And I'm just gonna gently push this frame against the other one already in here. Now I need to find more bees and more honey and maybe even more brood. This isn't a very good frame necessarily because it's not completely built out, but it does have some pollen and nectar. So maybe I'll give it to them on the very outside so they have more room to build, so that they don't fill up this box too fast, and so that they have more room to fill with nectar and pollen. Now I'm in the bottom box. I'm gonna look for more honey frames for sure, and possibly another brood frame. This frame has honey on it, but I think I'm gonna leave it in the bottom box. Because I know the queen isn't down here, I can be a little faster when I check my frames because I know I can't hurt her. This is a really good pollen and nectar frame. I think I'm gonna give it to this split. This one is full of pupa, which are older bees, which is really good because that means they'll emerge faster. Okay, now we're gonna put in our last frame, which is that really good honey frame, so the bees have plenty of food. They'll continue to go out and find flowers, but it might get colder in the next few days, and I wanna make sure they have plenty of food in their hive. Now I'm gonna carefully put the frames back together, trying to put them in the center because the bees like their bee space, which is a certain width apart, and the frames are made so that they are. And then I'm gonna cover it with the lid, which is over there behind the camera, Here's the lid. Thank you, assistant. I'm just gonna carefully cover the bees. And the bees will come out of this hole in their entrance and they'll realize we're in a new home. They'll reorientate and they'll think, this is a great new home. We've successfully swarmed. The other hive, like I said, is gonna raise a new queen. And I'll come back in a little bit to check on their progress. And then I'll come back in about a month and make sure that she's a really, really good queen. I am going to fill the rest of the space because otherwise the bees would make crazy comb. So I'm just gonna put empty frames in. Because the bees don't have a queen, they're gonna be extra good at making beeswax because they don't have any new babies to take care of. And they'll be like, these frames need beeswax, so they'll make extra beeswax. I'm gonna finish by putting the other box back on and then close them up. In about a week or two, I'm gonna come back and check these bees and see how good they're making their queen. I'll also check and see if they need more supplemental feed or if there's enough flowers out for them to collect nectar and pollen. At some point, I'll also come back and check the split hive and see if they need more room because they have a queen, which means they're gonna grow really fast. And if I don't want them to want to swarm again, I'll have to make sure they get more room. Thank you so much for watching.
Wow, Abigail, what a great presentation. Thank you so much for sharing your expertise on bees, beekeeping, and the products of the hive with us. I'm Miss Eliza from the Waukee Public Library, and I'm going to share with you now a craft using one of those products of the hive. We're going to be making rolled wax candles. So for this project, you're going to need sheets of beeswax, and we've got sheets that are a little bit about 5 inches tall and 5 inches across. We've got 2 squares. You can do this project with almost any size of wax sheet, but that's just what we've done in this pack. And then you're going to need a piece of wick string, which is a braided type of string, usually a 4-way braided string. And these are both products that you can find at almost any craft store, but especially for the beeswax sheets, another great place to check would be a local market or a farmer's market, because then you can get these wax sheets from local beekeepers in your area, which is a great way to support them, as well as just to support some of the bees in your neck of the woods. So let's start by looking closer at this beeswax. So you can see that this is a thin sheet of wax. It's pretty pliable, pretty bendable, and it does have this distinctive honeycomb kind of hexagon shape in it. Now in a hive, bees will actually create sheets of wax like this kind of to be the foundation or the base of their hive in their brood box. So it's gonna help create some of the structure that they use to then lay eggs and things within the hive. So when we gather that, all of that wax, when it's commercially produced like this, it can be spread out and pressed into a mold. So that's how we get these little shapes, but it's the same kind of wax that bees use to build up their hives. So to make this simple version of a candle, we're essentially just going to be rolling. And so you're going to want to have, we have some waxed paper down here, but you're going to want to do this on newspaper or a plate or something because the wax does have a little bit of a stickiness to it when you touch it, so you don't want to be pressing it too much into the table. Let's get started. Okay, so to start, you're gonna wanna pick whichever piece of wax you want to be on the inside. So if you got a pack from the library, you got 2 pieces, 2 different colors. Again, you can do this with any size and shape. So if you have one color and you wanna just roll a big thick candle with just one, that's also fine. But to make one that looks kind of like this, you're gonna wanna pick the color that you want on the inside first. And then you're gonna lay that down. So I'm actually gonna do an inverse of this. So I put purple on the outside. So let's put purple on the inside this time. So I'm gonna lay that flat, and then you're gonna take your wick string and line it up along the bottom edge on the very edge of the wax. And it's not gonna stay perfectly in place. So you're gonna want to have a tip. This is the wick that you'll burn coming out of the end, and you're gonna fold the piece of wax over to kind of keep the wick in place. Like that. press it down. If you press any parts of the wax together, they will stick together, so you want to be careful about how you press. So you'll fold in so the wick stays in place, and then you're just gonna start rolling the wax away from you. And the things that you wanna keep track of are, you want to make sure that the end stays lined up so that when you put this into a candle holder, it's going to stand up flat. So you're gonna roll pretty tight, as tightly as you can without really squishing the wax. So if you're pressing so hard that you're losing those hexagon shapes, you probably don't wanna press quite that hard, but you'll just keep rolling it until you get all the way to the end. Great, so now we've got this nice little skinny candle, and if you had a longer piece of wax, you could keep rolling and make a nice thick one. But if you have 2 sheets and you want to do a 2-colored candle, you're just going to find that edge seam and line up this sheet of wax right along that edge seam. And remember, you want to keep an eye on the bottom and make sure that stays flat. So we're just going to gently press this so that the 2 edges line up, and then put it flat, and then we'll just keep on rolling, and it should pick up that second sheet, and we'll just keep on rolling it up. Very good. All right, and then you can kind of give it a squish to keep it in place. Very good, and check the bottom. It's nice and flat. If it's not super flat, you can kind of gently press it and roll onto a flat surface, and that should help you stub it out and get it nice and flat so that it can go into a container. All right, great. So now we've got 2 of our little candles, and you can see they're both rolled up in wax. They've got 2 colors, so you can see the differentiation there on the top, and they've got nice flat bottoms. So what do you think is the next step that we need to do? Yeah, so we've got this wick coming out of the top, and you can see we've got about 1 inch, and we've left them extra long because it's better to have a little bit of extra space, just depending on how you roll it. But you're gonna wanna cut this down. You're gonna need a pair of scissors, and you're gonna wanna cut it to about 1/4 of an inch, so just a little bit of a wick sticking up there. So we'd need to trim both of these. And then when you're ready to use them, you can have an adult help you place them into a candle holder, or even something like a jar with a nice narrow top will work fine. And you can light these, and it'll give a really nice glow from a natural product, which is very cool. Beeswax is really special for candles because it tends to last a really long time. Remember, this is made to be the stuff that bees actually build hives out of, so it's really pretty sturdy. So it will melt really slowly and nicely over a long time. And if you've got 2 colors, they're gonna kind of blend together in a really neat way. And it's also known for being really kind of a cleaner burning candle, so you're not gonna get any funky smells or anything. It shouldn't be too smoky when you burn it. So those are some of the benefits of bee products. If you have some extra wax at home, or you've got more than 1 wax sheet, you can also decorate candles. So you could cut shapes out of a sheet of wax, maybe stars or letters for your name or flowers, and just gently press them onto the outside of your candle to make it a little bit more decorative. So that's another fun thing that you can do with beeswax. It's really a cool material and makes a really nice candle. Thanks again to Abigail Kelly, the Iowa Honey Queen, for sharing her hives and her beekeeping expertise with us, and we will see you next week.